Bob's Burgers is a dynamic show. Some episodes put the Belcher family in life or death danger.
I'm sorry I got us into this. Kids, I love you. And Linda, I love you too. Almost as much as the kids.
And others find them simply trying to survive everyday problems.
Wow. 2 parents, 3 kids, Christmas performances.
There's gotta be a way. What time does everyone's thing start?
6.
This blend of grounded relatability and thrilling escapism is at the heart of this show's appeal for me, but I also appreciate how rewarding it can be the more you pay attention to the details of its world and storytelling. For instance, in the Season 7 Halloween episode Tina Witch, there's a throwaway gag where the episode's main character, Tina, is almost hit by a cyclist.
Bike lane, ma'am.
Sorry, cursed, and I'm only 13, please don't call me ma'am.
And 2 minutes later, the same thing happens with Bob, the main character of the Beast story, who's just trying to figure out who keeps stealing the burger-themed jack-o'-lanterns he's putting out in front of his restaurant.
On your right, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm not a ma'am.
Close enough.
Pretty standard running gag for an episode of TV, right? Except that wasn't enough for Bob's Burgers, because later, when Bob discovers that it was his obscenely wealthy landlord, Mr. Fischoeder, who was stealing the jack-o'-lanterns all along, they have this exchange.
Wait, you're the one who's been stealing my jack-o'-lanterns?
Stealing? No, I thought we had an understanding. You carve them and leave them out, and then I take them. It's like how people keep giving me bikes.
Which is followed up at the episode's conclusion with,
Where do you want these bikes, Mr. Fischoeder?
Around the back, Freddy.
You got it.
Good man.
and during the closing credits, the show arrives at its final punchline. The cyclist who terrorized Bob and Tina throughout the episode ends it with his bike stolen. The show took a simple, surface-level joke and turned it into an ironic little subplot in its own right. Now, obviously, you don't need to have noticed this thread to enjoy Tina Witch, but the fact the team behind the show takes the time to add these smaller, easy-to-miss details makes it all the more enjoyable to rewatch and engage with. And that brings us to the episode that is the focus of this video. Episode 5 of Season 5, titled Best Burger.
All right, Bob, let's do it. Let's win. Win, win, win.
Lynn, please.
Let's go.
Take it down a notch, okay? Or
Cheers,
5.
Come on, cheer for your father. Cheer, cheer, cheer,
Lynn, stop.
cheer.
This is hands down my favorite episode of the entire series, and this video and its sequel are love letters dedicated to unpacking and analyzing why I think it's so great. We'll start with surface level details before digging deeper into some character stuff, and in the next video we'll keep digging deeper and deeper until we eventually unlock a full-blown conspiracy theory I've developed about this episode, complete with this, aluminum foil hat I made back when I was still optimistic that this video would be shorter than the episode of TV it's covering, so, yeah. Now, we've established Bob's Burgers is a show that rewards close scrutiny. We've explained the structure of this really, truly simple video series, but the one thing we haven't done is cut to Chapter 1. Here we go! Chapter 1, Rocky's Road. Best Burger is, at its core, an underdog story. The episode even goes out of its way to compare Bob to one of the most iconic underdogs in movie history.
Look at Skip over there. I don't think we can win this. It's like I'm Rocky and he's Apollo Creed.
That's good. Rocky always won.
Rocky lost in the first movie, Lynn.
Oh, but he walked up all those stairs. That's not fair.
This comparison is crucial to understanding how Best Burger unfolds and why, starting with the contest itself. As established in the opening moments, the Wharf-A-Down Food Festival is an annual tradition in town, but this year the main event is the first annual Best Burger contest. It's hosted by Chuck Charles, a local TV personality who holds a grudge against the Belchers, more on that later, and the contestants include our protagonists, Bob and Linda, their arch-nemesis Jimmy Pesto and his bartender/best friend Trev, and celebrity chef Skip Maruch, who's currently on tour promoting his new cookbook. When Chuck begrudgingly checks in on him, Bob reveals he's cooking the Bet It All on Black Garlic Burger, but clever as it is, that name doesn't stick around for long.
It's a fermented garlic. It comes from Korea.
Don't blame Korea for your stupid burger, Bob. Not fair to them or burgers.
I'm not blaming
The
them.
stupid black garlic burger. Put it up on the screen.
Oh my god.
Up, we made it up. Look, we're on the screen.
So they're not going to get any help from the ref, but other than that, things are looking pretty good, until they realize they're missing the most important ingredient.
All right, time to break out the black garlic. Lynn?
You got it. It's not in here.
Wait, what?
Turns out when they were getting ready to leave half an hour earlier, Bob asked his middle child, Gene, to grab the black garlic. And see, the thing about Gene is that you can really only rely on him for knowing when to deploy a well-timed fart joke.
All right, listen.
It shouldn't come as a surprise, therefore, to learn that he forgot to grab it. He forgot to grab the black garlic. So now the kids have to run back to the restaurant, grab the black garlic, and make it back all before the time runs out. Jean's willing to go without question, but youngest child Louise sees an opportunity to apply leverage.
And hurry, the clock is ticking.
Let's talk more about this clock that's ticking. Tick, tick, tick.
What do you
tick,
want,
tick,
Louise?
tick, tick, tick.
Louise.
We never have to work again.
You can have the day off tomorrow.
Deal.
Now, with Bob's win and a day off on the line, the kids make for the restaurant. On their way there, they bump into family friend and reformed bank robber Mickey, who's trying to make it in the pedicab business, but is running into some stiff competition via new character Manny.
Hey, you kids don't want to ride from toothpick legs over here? Check out these pretty monsters, huh?
Wow, it looks like a bunch of snakes inside a leather armchair.
Yep.
Back off, Manny. This is my fair.
Oh, yeah? Well, this is my turf, rookie.
Hey, my first turf war. Whoa!
Once the kids get to the restaurant, Gene is about to grab the black garlic when he gets distracted at the last second by his spatula back scratcher and ends up smashing it and getting it all over the front of his shirt. They now have to go get a new clove from a specialty food market called
Big Jam.
Fig jam?
Big jam.
whose owner the kids pissed off a week earlier, as seen in this flashback.
We'll take this dark chocolate bar with bacon and red pepper flakes, please.
Okay, that'll be $13.
What? No, we're just getting one, so this should cover it. Here you go.
You know, I think you three may be in the wrong store. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable shopping at the gumball machine at the gas station.
The situation escalates from there until the kids are banned from the store, so now they have to go and make nice with Ray, the owner of Fig Jam, who only decides to do business with them after Louise offers to pay double for the black garlic. Unfortunately, Gene got distracted again and gave the $20 they brought with them to a boy on a skateboard, so they swipe the black garlic with a promise to pay for it later, and Ray chooses to abandon his store to follow after them until they all wind up in a Mickey v. Manny high-speed pedicab chase through town. Mickey manages to outrun Manny, and they arrive back at the entrance of the festival. Gene is determined to deliver the black garlic to his dad himself, but there's just one problem.
This is a food festival, Gene. It's a distraction minefield for you.
Yeah, Gene, stay here and help me block Ray. It'll be a block party.
So Gene uses his powers of distraction to divert their attention long enough for him to steal the black garlic, and he makes his way through the festival with temptation calling to him every step of the way. Tina, Louise, and certified cool guy Ron stay behind to throw Ray that block party before they remind him that he left his store unattended and it's probably being looted, which is not quite the case.
Hello? Hello? I'm just gonna leave money on the counter. Love your store.
But it's enough to at least get him to leave them alone. Meanwhile, on stage, Bob is struggling with more internal obstacles. Because you see, sometimes growing up means running past the hot fudge car wash when you have someplace more important to be, but other times, growing up can look a little more like this.
I'm just saying, you picked our least responsible kid to do the most important thing. Maybe you kind of expected him to screw up?
That is ridiculous, Lynn.
Well, forgetting the black garlic sort of lets you off the hook for losing. Like it's not your fault. All of a sudden, you got a built-in excuse for not being the best.
That is crazy. That's maybe right? Oh my god.
The show is doing two things at once here that I think is really cool. For one, it's telling us about Bob's relationship with his son, obviously, but it's also telling us about Bob's relationship with himself. He starts the episode subconsciously believing he can't possibly win, so he unintentionally uses his most oblivious child as a means of fulfilling that self-fulfilling prophecy. And he can only move on, he can only grow up if he finally accepts responsibility for his own destiny, even if that might mean working really hard and still losing anyway.
Got garlic, broke law. You fix later. On our way, smiley face. Oh, smiley face!
Oh my god, they got it. They're coming. We're gonna have everything we need. No more excuses.
No.
I'm terrified.
And once the black garlic is in hand, with only seconds to spare, Bob finally and fully embraces his inner Rocky.
Come on, Bobby, you got your gloves now. Time to beat Apollo!
Adrian!
No, not like that. Say it right.
What? I'm saying it right. Adrian, I don't have time, Lynn.
But what about Gene? Well, I'm happy to report that when he made it back to the stage with the black garlic, he and Bob shared a meaningful heart-to-heart.
Before I give you the black garlic, I just want to say one more thing.
There's only 45 seconds left, Gene, so...
I've always admired you.
Just give me the garlic, Gene. We'll talk later.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I snapped.
Oh, shoot. That wasn't a meaningful heart-to-heart. Maybe it's this clip here.
Listen, Gene, you may get distracted from time to time, but I love you and I love who you are. And what matters most is... Gene? Jane, are you listening?
Well, that's certainly more than a lot of people get from their parents, so let's call it a win. Speaking of winning, Bob doesn't do that. He loses. He loses the contest. He gets really close. The judges basically have the exact same things to say about his burger that they do about Skip's, which Linda summarizes for us here.
Okay, Bob. You got a fantastic and an ooh, but he got an amazing and a really weird moan. And he liked both your mouthfeels. I'd say it's a tight race.
Unfortunately, it's not enough. Skip wins. It doesn't even take them that long to decide.
And now the judges will deliberate. Cue deliberating music, please.
You know what? I did my best. I held my own with Skip, and no matter what happens, Lynn, I feel pretty good.
And our winner is Skip Marouche!
Oh my God, I feel bad.
Ah, damn it! Piece of garbage!
How can we lose? Are you kidding me?
Okay.
And it's only after Bob has accepted his loss, after he acknowledges that he did the best he could and still came up short, and after he, well, attempts to reconcile with his son, that he finally gets his reward. A line outside his restaurant, waiting to try his black garlic burger, and among them is Skip Marouche himself. The ending of Best Burger tells us that even though Bob doesn't get the more high-profile and superficial victory of winning the contest, he does get the more personal and ultimately more meaningful victory of self-respect, just like Rocky going 15 rounds with Apollo Creed.
Ain't gonna be no rematch.
Don't want one.
And on its own, that's enough. I could stop here and declare that Best Burger is a phenomenal episode of Bob's Burgers and a pretty great episode of TV overall. But I'm not going to stop here, am I? You can see how much time is left on the video. You know we're just getting started.
All right.
And after I win this contest today, we're also going to be known for our oregano burger.
All right. And what's in that?
Just a ton of oregano.
The Big O!
Don't say Big O, would you?
All right, I won't say anything then, ever.
Now that we understand how the competition itself unfolds, let's take a closer look at the competitors, starting with this guy.
Jimmy Pesto's is known for our family-friendly atmosphere, festive drink specials, and Italian-flavored foods.
Jimmy Pesto, real name James Poplapovich, is crucial to the DNA of Bob's Burgers. He's the ultimate foil to Bob, his exact opposite in every way that matters. The character first appears in the 6th episode of the show ever, and here's Bob himself explaining exactly why he hates the guy so much.
God, I hate Jimmy Pesto with his crappy food and all his customers.
His crappy food and all his customers. It takes all of 7 words to define this relationship, but there are several different ways we could interpret them. For instance, you could take it as simple jealousy. Jimmy is successful and Bob isn't, therefore Jimmy Pesto is bad. But this interpretation only takes into account the second half of what Bob says, the all his customers part, and I'm personally more interested in the first half of what he says, the crappy food part. Because when you take that into account, it's clear Bob's problem with Jimmy isn't simply that he's successful, it's that he's being rewarded for mediocrity and for making a mockery of a craft Bob loves, respects, and takes seriously. As a friend of mine pointed out when reviewing the script for this video, quote, "It's a direct assault on his values, and a reminder that you can be driven by all the right things and still lose out to someone doing things the wrong way." Bob prides himself in only using the highest quality beef. Jimmy Pesto will use whatever's cheapest.
Bob, I run a business, all right? I don't know what you're doing with your fancy ingredients.
You think anything that isn't frozen or rotten is fancy, Jimmy?
Bob loves and supports his family. Jimmy Pesto will brag about how only one of his kids got detention.
I win.
Well, I had none in detention yesterday. How many did you have in the... Don't roll up your window! Roll it back down!
And perhaps most importantly for the themes of the show, Bob opened his restaurant with a dream to make a new burger every single day, using unique and sometimes bizarre ingredients, and Jimmy Pesto opened his restaurant with a dream to make as much money as he possibly can. Jimmy Pesto is a fraud, a liar, a cheat. He delights in the misfortune of others, he thinks of his kids as a burden, and he's willing to go to great lengths, often against his own best interests, just to spite someone he doesn't like very much. He honestly sounds like the kind of guy you wouldn't be surprised to find out is an insurrectionist. Wait a minute. But while Jimmy Pesto is all of those things, that's not all he ever is. He is capable of being kind to Trev.
It's a mummy.
Looks like an ugly ghost.
I spent all weekend on it.
You know what? Leave it there. It's terrifying.
Okay.
And he is capable of being a halfway decent human being to Bob.
You recommended me for this. Why? You had to be setting me up for something.
Yeah, I thought the guys would like your food.
What? I couldn't hear you.
I said I told them I like food, you know.
No, now you just mumbled. You're covering your face with your blanket.
I thought they would like your food, and then they would like me because I recommended you, and that's how I'd get into the thing.
You thought they would like my food?
Oh, it sounds gross when you say it.
So why isn't he all of these things all the time then? Well, because he's miserable. This is a man who could not care less about food, choosing to center his entire livelihood around it. He is living a lie in which he has to pretend to be a successful chef while being none of the things it takes to actually be a chef worthy of that success. In short, he is not living authentically, and yet, he is being rewarded for it. And what other choice is he left with in that case? He has to keep lying, he has to keep talking about his promotions, about his drink specials, about his wacky appetizers. Otherwise, people will realize his food is no good, they'll realize he's a fraud, and he'll lose everything. And that sword of Damocles constantly hanging over his head makes him both miserable and miserable to be around.
Done! Ding! Ooh, what? Wow, Jimmy has plated his burgers with 10 minutes left. Of course, those burgers may get cold before the judges have a chance to... Ooh, okay, brought a little heat lamp with him.
Yeah, heat lamp adds a little flavor.
It keeps my lizard warm.
Would you? Come on!
So, his inauthenticity brings him material success, but not genuine happiness. Bob, meanwhile, loves cooking, and he's dedicated his life to making the best food he possibly can. He finds joy in the process, and he finds joy in sharing what he's made with others, especially his family.
Bobby, this is really good.
This is amazing, Bob. It really is.
Are you crying?
Oh, I'm just so happy.
In short, Bob is living authentically, but while that certainly brings him happiness, it doesn't bring him success. His restaurant is empty far more often than it's full. He and Linda are always behind on rent. They worry about being able to afford Christmas presents for their kids, and they regularly accept side jobs that put them in physical danger. Because in Bob's world, much like in our own, it's not enough to just be really good at what you do. Jimmy Pesto's success proves as much. His food isn't as good, yet he consistently has more customers than Bob does. Sure, Bob is a great chef, but what difference does that make if he can't get people through the door to try his food in the first place? Anytime he is presented with an opportunity to expand his business or use newer tools that save him time or add trendy new items to his menu, he rejects them.
Sorry, I can't do this, Lynn. Sweet potato fries are officially off the menu.
This is a man who wants to pursue the craft of making burgers authentically, and he believes that straying too far from what he defines as authentic will dilute the quality of his work. And it's here that we arrive at the real difference between Bob Belcher and Jimmy Pesto, the thing that makes these two characters such great foils to each other. Because you see, the fundamental difference between them is not that Bob is a great chef and Jimmy Pesto isn't. Rather, it's that Jimmy Pesto is a businessman and Bob Belcher is an artist. If you're a longtime fan of the show, this argument may seem surprising given things Bob himself has said.
It was long and boring and made me want to stop supporting the arts and start actively working against them.
But when you look at the show through the lens of Bob as an artist, you see it everywhere. You can see it in the episode where Bob gets a bad review and he considers giving up the restaurant to get some ordinary day job, and it's framed as a literal nightmare. You can see it in the episode where Bob is struggling with what's basically writer's block when he can't come up with a new burger of the day. And you can see it in the episode where he returns a brand new electric meat grinder because he prefers the texture and complexity his burgers have when they come from his old and rickety hand-cranked grinder.
I don't know, maybe it's all in my head. I guess I miss that grind. I need that grind. I mean, you know, it's kind of a metaphor for life, really. We get older and it beats us up, but we also get more textured, more complex, more beautifully ground up into delicious burgers.
So you want to return it?
Yes, please.
These are the struggles of someone who has formed a unique and special bond with some small part of this world, and every atom of his body compels him to seek out and understand it. These are the struggles of an artist, and like any artist, making burgers isn't merely a job to him. It's not something he's doing for fame, success, or even money. It's something he's doing because it's how he tells the world who he is. When Bob Belcher grills someone a burger, he is sharing a piece of himself with them through that burger, in the same way Van Gogh shared pieces of himself through the paint on a canvas, or Jane Austen through the words on a page, or Tommy Wiseau through the lens of a camera.
Hi, doggy.
You're my favorite customer.
And if you're still not convinced, well, here's the show coming to the exact same conclusion.
You're not a businessman. You don't care about customers and money. Ha!
No, I do.
No, you are an artist. A beef artist. A beefartist. A poet who writes with meat and buns and pickles like a greasy, heterosexual Walt Whitman.
Thank you.
To Jimmy Pesto, cooking is an easy way to make money. To Bob Belcher, it's an art form. And he's not the only creative one in the family either. Linda loves to sing, dance, act, and perform. Tina's a writer who specializes in erotic friend fiction. Gene is, well, maybe musician isn't the right word for him, but he does like making noise that resembles music most of the time.
Don't score me.
And recent seasons in particular have leaned heavily into Louise's creative instincts, from The Plate Before Christmas to Amelia to For Whom the Doll Tolls.
Ready? Mr. Stiffarms. Another accident? Tripped and fell?
Mr. Stiff.
It's Mr. Stiffarms.
What'd I say?
You said Mr. Stiff.
You're Mr. Stiff.
And look at how the show handles its anthology episodes. Every single one of them involves at least 3 members of the family, most often the kids, telling each other's stories.
Well, we'll never really know what would have happened if I didn't have a mustache back then.
But we can wildly speculate.
No.
I don't want to.
I take you back to that night.
The Belchers are, at their core, a family of artists, and Bob and Linda are framed as good, loving parents, specifically because they not only accept, but embrace and foster this sense of creativity in their kids. This is in direct contrast to how Bob himself was raised, when his attempts to be creative with cooking were shut down by his father and ultimately led to their estrangement.
Get out! Take your jokey burger specials and go!
Fine! You just gave me a new burger idea! The I'm Sprouta here burger comes with sprouts! Ah, not that, but something else!
And I think it's fair to say that the way Bob was raised is pretty similar to how Jimmy Pesto is raising his kids. His oldest son, Jimmy Jr., has a passion for dance, but he feels misunderstood and unsupported by his father.
I had a fight with my dad this morning. He said I have to go to speech therapy instead of dance club. I don't need speech therapy, Dad. You need dance therapy.
And Jimmy doesn't seem to be doing much better with his younger sons, Andy and Ollie.
Hi, Linda. Thanks for the heads up about the baseball camp.
Isn't it great?
Last chance to earn my love, guys.
I love that joke.
But so what, right? Bob's a good dad living a happy life. Jimmy Pesto isn't, but he is a successful businessman, while Bob is a struggling, insecure artist. How is all of this crucial to the DNA of the show, like I said earlier? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that actually brings us to our third and final contestant,
Skip Marooch. Am I saying that right?
Yes. Skip.
Notice how he's placed at the center of the stage, between Bob and Jimmy. Now, from a surface level standpoint, this would make sense for a couple of reasons. Within the world of the show, he's the most famous person competing, so let's make him the point of focus for the crowd. And from a real-world production standpoint, it makes sense to put your regular characters on either side of a guest star. But given everything we've just discussed, isn't the deeper meaning here pretty obvious too? Bob is great at food, Jimmy Pesto is great at business, but Skip Marooch is great at both.
So you're from Pakistan, you've got a successful restaurant, you're on a book tour. Guy, what can't you do?
Complain? Everything is going so well.
This guy.
He has attained a level of success that neither Bob nor Jimmy could ever reach on their own, because he has the strengths of both with the weaknesses of neither. He can win over a crowd like Jimmy.
Sheesh, I know we're here for Bob, but it's hard to root against that guy.
He is likable.
Shush! I can't hear them cooking!
But he's able to back it up with good food like Bob.
So what are you making today? I already love you.
Well, today I will be making a pomegranate and green chili chutney burger with my grandmother's special spice blend.
2 words, yum and yum.
And in that way, the Skip Marooches of the world will always win out over the Bob Belchers and Jimmy Pestos. If you're a fraud, your work won't stand up to close scrutiny, so all you can do is talk long enough and loud enough that people either forget or simply ignore the truth,
Looks like the judges are tasting Jimmy Pesto's burger first. Let's see how they... Oh, they are spitting it out.
That's cool. Hey, 2 for 1 pizza night Wednesdays, karaoke Tuesdays, trivia Thursdays, we never card. Come on down.
And if you're a struggling, insecure artist, you'll spend so much time fighting yourself that you won't have much energy left for anything else.
We finished! We finished the burgers!
Hooray for Bob! He managed to somehow do what he does every day for a living. What a champion.
That's my Bobby!
But if you're Skip Marooch, you're just minding your business, cooking your food, pretending to strangle the host for some reason.
Warm, charming, and funny, strong hands to boot. That's why he's got a book and Bob doesn't.
If nothing else, Skip Marooch is a symbol of what it would look like if Bob and Jimmy could ever get over themselves, set aside their differences, and go into business together. With Bob's cooking and Jimmy Pesto's knack for drawing a crowd, they could be a genuine force to be reckoned with. But these guys could never be partners, let alone actual friends, and Best Burger understands this. That's why it places them on opposite sides of the stage with Skip Marooch between them, just as the greater show places them on opposite sides of the street with Ocean Avenue between them. They could find a way forward, travel down a new, more fulfilling, and maybe even successful road together if only they could meet in the middle. But instead, they waste their time glaring across the street at each other, seeing a simultaneous representation of everything they hate and everything they wish they could have. And the show makes it clear that if they could just set aside their own preconceived notions and prejudices, they might see the human being on the other side of all that and finally realize they have a lot more in common than not. But that would require them both to set aside their egos and admit they were wrong, so yeah, never gonna happen. Which means they're destined to keep losing in their own ways forever, because they would clearly rather fail together as enemies than succeed together as allies. Jimmy's food will keep getting spit out, Bob will keep just scraping by, and Skip Marooch will forever exist in the space between them, minding his own business, cooking his food, and admiring his big, shiny, burger-shaped trophy.